All right, so today we're going deep on a case that's been making headlines.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story.
The capture of James Scott Rhys Anderson, a British ex-soldier who was fighting in Ukraine.
Right, and what makes it so interesting is that it kind of raises all these questions about covert operations.
Exactly. Like, is this just a guy who went to fight, or is there something more going on?
Yeah, is there a hidden agenda that we're not seeing?
And to help us sort through all this, we've got this in-depth report that really digs into the possibility of some kind of secret mission.
It lays out all the details, and it really does feel like something out of a spy novel.
You've probably heard about foreign volunteers heading to Ukraine,
Yeah,
but this case feels different.
absolutely. So let's start with the basics. Who is James Scott Rhys Anderson?
Well, according to what we've got, he's 22, a former British soldier, and was working as a civilian custody officer.
Until 2024, that's when he lost his job and then decided to go to Ukraine and join the fight.
I mean, can you imagine that losing your job and then heading straight into a war zone?
It's a pretty huge life change, and that's what makes this whole thing so intriguing.
Right, because on the one hand, you've got James and his family saying it was a personal choice,
They're saying he was driven by hardship and just wanted to help the Ukrainians.
but then you have the way he was captured.
Yeah, the fact that he was paraded on Russian state media makes it all seem very deliberate.
Like it was staged or something.
Exactly. And some people are saying it's just too orchestrated to be a coincidence.
But wouldn't that be the opposite of what you'd want in a covert operation?
You're thinking if it were a secret mission, they wouldn't want to draw attention to it.
Yeah, would they want to keep it all hush-hush?
Absolutely. And that's why this case is so perplexing.
Because it kind of throws a wrench into how we think about these things.
It makes you question whether we really understand how these covert operations work.
So how do we even know what's really going on if governments are so good at keeping secrets?
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? The report says there's no hard evidence linking James to any kind of official British mission.
But wouldn't that be almost impossible to find anyway?
It's true. Proving a covert operation is incredibly difficult. You have to connect all these seemingly random dots.
And I'm guessing governments use all kinds of tricks to cover their tracks.
Oh, yeah. Things like intermediaries, code names, disinformation. It's all designed to maintain plausible deniability.
It really does sound like we're talking about a spy novel.
Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
So in James's case, what are the possibilities here?
Well, one scenario is that he was acting completely independently motivated by his own personal reasons.
So he just wanted to help.
Exactly. Another possibility is that he went over there as a volunteer, but then got pulled into something bigger later on.
Like he was recruited without even realizing it.
It's possible. And then, of course, there's the possibility that this was a fully planned covert mission from the start.
And each scenario has its own implications.
Definitely, but we have to be careful. We can't jump to conclusions without solid evidence.
It's all speculation until we have something concrete.
Exactly. And I think this case really underscores just how complex the situation in Ukraine is.
There are something like 3,000 British citizens who've gone to fight there.
And each one has their own reasons for being there.
It's a reminder of the global impact of this conflict
Yeah.
and the personal sacrifices people are willing to make.
But it also highlights the risks, not just for the individuals, but for international relations as well.
So where does that leave us? We've got all these possibilities, but no real answers.
It's the nature of these situations. There's always going to be a certain level of ambiguity when it comes to covert operations.
I guess the key is to not get swept up in speculation and to stay focused on the facts.
Exactly. Examine the evidence, consider different perspectives, but don't jump to conclusions.
So, after all this, what do you think is the most likely scenario in James's case?
Well, it's tempting to try and give a definitive answer.
Yeah, I'd love to know what you really think.
Honestly, I think the biggest takeaway from all this is to cultivate a healthy skepticism.
To question what you see and hear and to always dig a little deeper.
Exactly, because there's always more to the story than meets the eye.
This whole deep dive has really given me a lot to think about, especially the ethical implications of these covert operations.
It's a tough question to grapple with, for sure.
Like, where do you draw the line between national security and transparency?
That's a debate that's been going on for a long time.
And it's one that's not going away anytime soon.
Definitely a lot to ponder.
Well, thanks for joining me on this one.
It's been a fascinating discussion.
I think our listeners will have a lot to chew on after this.
I hope so.
Until next time, stay curious and keep asking those tough questions.
Absolutely.